Game ending. Twins lose another heartbreaker in extras to Cleveland. Final score 3-2. Breaking it all down next on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, Sweet Lou Hennesey. Give him a follow on X, at Sweet Lou MN. He's our Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. And Lou, before we jump into all the fun action from today's game, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. Okay, so Game 4 versus Cleveland, still hanging onto this 6 seed by a thread. Woods Richardson on the mound. Mr. Consistent, really. Chewed up some innings, 4 2/3, 5 hits, only 1 earned run, though, a solo shot in the first inning. 6 Ks, 1 walk, all on 72 pitches. Margo, he snaps out of a serious funk. We'll get into that here in a second. He's got a double, gives them the lead, 2-1 in the 5th inning. 1 inning later, though, Cleveland ties it up with a sac fly. We go to extras again because why wouldn't we? Bases juice for the Twins. Carlos Correa up with 1 out. He fouls out. Buxton comes up with 2 outs. He lines out to right field. So Twins' biggest names, their best hitters, they crumble with the game on the line. Bottom 10, you knew it was coming. Jimenez singles, Ramirez scores. That's your ball game. Twins lose 3-2. They lose 3 out of 4 to Cleveland. They lose back-to-back games in extra innings. Backbreaker, gut punch, whatever you want to say. I don't know what's going on inside that clubhouse right now as we speak, especially in crunch time when you need these games the most. Are we supposed to laugh, Lou? Are we supposed to cry? What's your biggest takeaways? Kind of your 8 topics.
Dude, I feel like I should have scheduled like a root canal or something. It would have been a better afternoon.
Therapy, maybe. Better help.
Yeah. So I think we're finding out how many gut punches it takes to kill a team right now. That's what it feels like. And I hope that's not where it's headed. But go ahead and tell me the last, 4 losses they've had weren't absolute heartbreakers. And a team, especially a young team like the Twins, can only take so much of that before, so much bending before breaking.
10th inning, bases juice, 1 out. Come on, man. Correa and Buxton coming up. You got to be feeling somewhat good. They can't convert. And it makes me think of this Aaron Gleeman stat up on Twitter. Aaron Gleeman, writer for The Athletic. Minnesota Twins hitters are 14 for 91 with runners in scoring position versus Cleveland specifically this season. So that's a 154 batting average with runners in scoring position. They got more double plays than extra base hits, and they've struck out in 30% of their plate appearances, again, with runners in scoring position. That was coming into today. So those numbers are only worse now. You ain't going to win a lot of games hitting like that, are you? What is it? Do they just not have the manpower? Is it a talent thing? Is it a manager coaching lineup thing? Is Cleveland's pitchers just really good? What is it?
If we're just going by the whole season in general, the Cleveland Guardians have a few things that the Twins don't. They have star hitters that have been healthy and effective the entire year. Guys like Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, the meat of the lineup. They play most days. Jose Ramirez especially is having another MVP caliber season, which he'll probably get 4th or 5th for. But, healthy stars. And then a bullpen that does its job. After their starter today, they went to 5-6 different pitchers with an ERA under 2. The Twins don't have those kind of options right now, whether that's due to inconsistency in some of the guys that they've been relying on, or, due to injury or just people running out of gas. They don't have it. They can't match what the Cleveland Guardians brought today.
Yeah, good point there. Yeah, 7 pitchers burned through today for Cleveland. But again, as long as you get the dub, easy to justify those things. Let's just say they don't make the playoffs, which who knows. But which one are you blaming first? I'll give you 4 options. The front office for obviously not doing their part this offseason at the trade deadline. The manager for some rough late game decisions these last couple of weeks. The pitching collapse, or just this anemic hitting we've seen. Where's your blame go top to bottom, 1 through 4?
A little bit of blame goes to everybody, absolutely. But, I'm not the kind of guy who says, oh, the manager needs to keep the clubhouse. The manager needs to make X, Y, Z decisions in order to win games. Of course they do. But I do think that Rocco mostly does that. However, I'm curious about just the atmosphere and just kind of the environment of some of these young hitters, because as we've seen, they're running out of gas here at a pretty terrible time. This is the second time in 3 years that that's happened. They started off slow. People were calling for the hitting coach to be fired and everything. And then they turned it around for a while, which is great to see. Now they just absolutely have no answers for the adjustments that the rest of the league has made to them. So if I had to give more aim or more blame to somebody here, I might say just the environment of the clubhouse right now, because it's showing that it's not super effective for a competitive team.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair too, more than warranted. Remember Carlos Correa gave the front office his wish list at the deadline?
Sure.
They didn't deliver, obviously. It's cost them dearly now. How much would you love to see them, or him, I should say, just go nuclear on them, to the media too? If they don't make the postseason, because he's the captain, right? People are going to listen. He's the $1 million man. If anyone has the voice to voice their opinion, I guess, and people are going to listen, I think they deserve some criticism too, by the way, along the way. So, do you think that's warranted? Do you think he needs to be the guy, of all the players in the clubhouse to kind of speak up, just for them, the front office, that is, to finally kind of wake up?
Yeah, I think the criticism would be warranted, absolutely, but I just don't think Carlos is the kind of guy who would make a big fuss to management like that, especially when they're still signing his checks here. But like you said, he went to them with a list of names that would be awesome, awesome arms to have to acquire at the deadline here. We saw 3 times this week how, desperate they were for a high leverage lefty reliever, somebody like Taylor Rogers coming in, and Caleb Thielbar, God bless him. He's done a great job over his last 5 years since he's been back with the Twins, but it's a lot different going to him in those extra inning affairs when there's somebody starting out at second base and it's just a single loses the game. You want somebody that can miss bats, not just miss hits.
Yeah. SWR, quick 60 seconds on him. Again, 4 2/3, 5 hits, only 1 earned run on that first inning solo shot, 6 Ks to a 1 walk ratio, 72 pitches. Just another Mr. Consistent outing, right? He's clearly their third best pitcher for a reason, and he has been one of the few lone bright spots in the second half of the year.
Yeah, he's been a little bit up and down lately, but today was a really encouraging start. 6 strikeouts in just under 5 innings. You'll absolutely take that. Of course, you want to see him go 6 or 7 innings. You want that from all of your pitchers, but he's a 23-year-old guy. This is by far the most he's ever worked. Of course, they're going to keep him on a shorter leash. It's just a matter of how good he can be for those first 75 pitches, and he showed that he can be super competitive. And really, I think that they managed this game like a playoff game that we're going to see. If he does start a game 3, he'll probably get a pretty quick hook after seeing the lineup for the second time. Absolutely, you got to think, and then they go to maybe some long relief there. But unfortunately, today was the story of the bats not being able to back him up. Unfortunately,
yeah. Well, let's fast forward, or let's rewind to last night too, because you could argue last night's hurt a lot more because you were up 4-2. You gave that one away. What were you thinking when they put Ronnie Henriquez in? Cole Sands just pitched 50 to 60 pitches the past 2 nights, something like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do you want to fatigue Cole Sands over Ronnie in that spot? Easy to say in hindsight, I know, but
yes.
This is the season, man. Every game is do or die. It's crunch time, and you need every single one of these games.
Absolutely. And, credit Ronnie Henriquez. He's had a pretty good, month or two since he's been back up, but it's a different ball game in a playoff atmosphere to rely on somebody like that. And last night was one of those opportunities where you're like, man, if we just had another, elite late inning weapon that we could use here that we could have acquired at the trade deadline. There's a missed opportunity for that. And I hope Enriquez continues to get opportunities. Hopefully they're not extra inning opportunities like that, but they were just out of options yesterday for whatever reason it was that they deemed Sands and Jax to be unavailable.
Okay, Twins, the last, 30 games, third worst record in the MLB. Let me say that again. Last 30 games, third worst record in the MLB. And that's what the White Sox are floating out there at the bottom too. During that time, the bullpen ranks 26 in ERA, 30th out of 30 in WPA. We touched on this 2 nights ago, but not only is their WPA dead last, it's more than twice as bad as the next bullpen.
Yeah.
At a certain point, is the conversation just come down to talent, and the Twins just don't have the manpower, not enough horses to win this race, any race for that matter? Like, how mad can you really get at some of these guys in the bullpen? No one ever said they were really that good to begin with, right?
Sure. And, this front office, they've shown a penchant or kind of a pattern of not investing a ton into the bullpen, whether that's financially or some of their, top prospects and, trying to acquire players that way. I think they have to reevaluate, that practice, because we've seen probably 3 of the last 4 years that there's some serious holes in this bullpen. Last year was pretty good. They had a pretty good group, and I think they did a good job. But top to bottom this year, it's been pretty inconsistent besides Griffin Jackson, probably Yohan Duran, you could say. But I think they really need to reevaluate their process there. Maybe it's turning more of their top pitching prospects into relievers. Maybe it's trading more prospects as prospect capital and acquiring some veteran, leadership that they can put back there instead of just throwing whatever at the wall and making everybody kind of a fungible arm. That works in pretty small sample sizes, but we're seeing it right now that it's a long season, and that really grinds down the guys they have back there.
Yeah, good breakdown there. Well said. I pick on the pitchers for a second, then my mind immediately goes, well, they can't score any runs though either. Yeah. Last night, Twins 4 through 9 hitters, a combined 0 for 24. Brutal. And they were still in the game. They should have won. They forced extra. I don't know what's more insane, the fact that they went 0 for 24, or the fact that they almost won and probably should have won. That's insane.
Yeah, no, the offensive group as a whole, really right now, they're reminding me of those first 20 games when they went 7-13. So many called strike threes right down the pipe. And, I get that they have to go in there with a plan. Their opponents are going in with a much better plan that they seem to be just purely unprepared for, or they don't have the capacity to fight some of these pitches off, which really good teams do.
Reminds me of Little League. Get that shoulder off the bat, and if you're going to go down, you're going to go down swinging. Dude, speaking of get the shoulder off the bat, Margo, 0 for 4 last night. 2 nights ago, he achieved something special. He now owns the MLB record for most hitless pinch at bats when he went 0 for 29. At what point is that just on Rocco? Stop
he's due, then, right? He's due. That's all it means. No.
Sounds like my fantasy football lineup changes Sunday at 11:55.
Sure. No, Manny, he's, I think there is a luck component for sure, but it's also a skill component too. It's not like he's some super high ceiling player that is like, oh, this is really out of the ordinary for him to go 0 for 31 or whatever it is. He's a 4th outfielder, a platoon bat. That's kind of what you're going to get. But at this point, the streak has become pretty ridiculous and historic. So we'll see how far it goes. You just feel like if they squeak into the playoffs, he's going to come in with a walk-off pinch hit grand slam or something, his first opportunity. Yeah. We can only hope.
Yeah. Hey, he had a RBI double today, so maybe he's turning a corner, I guess. But again, that's just rare territory to achieve an MLB record like that, and obviously not in a good way. A Rocco report, Game 4 versus Cleveland. The Rocco report, it says what?
Up until the end there, I was very pleased with his bullpen management for this one. Like I said, he was managing it like a playoff start for Simeon Woods Richardson. In fact, probably giving him a longer leash than we would see in the postseason, honestly. Mm-hmm. But I loved especially that he went Sands for the meat of the opponent's lineup, and then to Varland, who has been going up and down, but really shows some promise, but letting him eat against the bottom of the lineup, and then going to Jax, his top arm, when the meat comes right back up around. So I got to give Rocco props for that. I think that was a good decision. That was well done. Unfortunately, he didn't have one more super high caliber arm that he could throw in the 10th inning there.
Yeah, well said. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, got that nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. In eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, they got it all. And whether you're into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. Always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back with all the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, another Aaron Gleeman, the Geek fact and stat. Twins have collapsed after mid-August for the second time in 3 seasons. 2022, they were 62-55 as of August 19th, then finished 16-29 for MLB's 4th worst record. This year, 70-53 as of August 17th, and are now 10-19, actually 10-20 now after today. That is, again, the 3rd worst record in the MLB. Where does this collapse rank when you think a Twins meltdown, second half meltdown specifically, the last decade or two? Got to be up there.
Oh, absolutely. If they fail to make a playoff spot, coming out of here, it's going to be devastating, and it's going to be a huge black eye on this organization over the last, like you said, probably 20 years or so. You got to think. In 2022, there was so many more injuries. Literally, their entire starting 9 were just on the shelf. But by mid-September, they were throwing Nick Gordon in the cleanup spot, batting center field. And so this one is a little different in the fact that they have guys on the field. Maybe they're not 100% healthy, but at least they have their players on the field. It's just a matter of their hitters executing. You got to think.
I think the part, if they can make the playoffs, for a lot of people, I think we talked about this the other night. You got Pablo going in game 1. You got Bailey over. He looked fantastic last night in game 2. That alone should give anyone a lot of optimism just to be able to hang with Houston, give them a chance. Not to mention, maybe this October, Carlos Correa starts warming back up a little bit. Chip in a chair, you never know what could happen, right?
Exactly. And I think that's a great starting point, but they need to get in the race. They need to get themselves on the track first.
Yeah, they got to make their first. And Theo brought up a great point as far as this goes too last night, which was pending what situation both them, the Twins, and Baltimore are in for this final series. How do you see that playing out? Like if you're Rocco, pending the situation, you obviously got a game plan around, okay, do we need to win these games? If so, how do we kind of blueprint and game plan this whole situation? Because you got to make sure Bailey and Pablo are in those first 2 games come postseason, I would think.
At least one of them in those first 2 games.
One of them,
But, I think when it comes down to it, if they haven't secured anything by next Friday, you're going to see Pablo. You're going to see Bailey. You're going to see them do whatever they can and figure out the rest later. Maybe that's starting Sim game 1 and hoping for the best, and then starting one of the other 2 guys on short rest. You do whatever you can to just keep that door open. I got to think, but who knows? A good week until then seems like a far stretch for the club that we've seen recently, but anything can happen.
And there's not really a big window here to get a lot of rest days and day offs, right? The Twins' last game of the season versus Baltimore, again, at home, at Target Field in the backyard, Sunday, September 29th. First game of the wild card, Tuesday, October 1st. So, I mean, you're getting like 1 day of rest there, which again, pending how that rotation and that blueprint goes for those 3 games versus Baltimore. That might be a tough, predicament, I guess, for Rocco to kind of manage around. Because like you said, end of the day, can't get to the postseason unless we win these games first. Royce Lewis has not been good this second half. And you can't tell the media, hey, I don't go through slumps and then just not back it up. How much criticism should he take when it comes to this 5, 6, 7 week collapse they've been on? Because when they have needed him the most, he's disappeared offensively. And I will say defensively too, he really hasn't been that sharp either. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he's starting to straighten out a little bit defensively, but there's a few weeks there where he looked very rough at the hot corner there. He looked like he couldn't take the heat. So, he's going to be one of a lot of guys that get a lot of blame if this collapse continues. But his star is so big. We were talking about that. They were talking on the radio, I believe, at last night's game, that Royce, if he didn't have that star around him from his, postseason epic last year, and just kind of his such a hot start to his career. Would they be considering, sending him down? He, like we said, it's been an extended stretch, and we've seen them go to, at Julian and Matt Wallner and send them down when they need a reset. It's hard to argue that Royce doesn't need a reset right now, but they don't have the time or the capacity to send him down at this point. And who knows, people get treated differently all over the, over the sphere here. So, he's going to take his fair share of lumps for sure if he can't turn things around in a hurry.
Yeah, it's a good point, though. And, Royce going cold, didn't have Correa and Buxton for a huge stretch. You just mentioned him. Matt Wallner, of all people, really the guy they kind of ended up leaning on offensively, really carried them most of the second half, went 3 for 4 last night. How big of a surprise was that? Like, is that one of the top 3, top 5 biggest surprises of the Twins season, especially knowing how cold Matt Wallner started out? And how encouraging is it knowing the type of hitter he's kind of turned into, not just for now, but hopefully 2025 and then beyond?
Yeah, overall, super encouraging for sure. I don't know if I would be super surprised at these numbers if you would have told me over the offseason, just because of how good he was in his rookie year. If you would have told me on May 1st that this would happen, I'd be like, oh man, he was a totally different guy in this first month here, at least those 30 at-bats or whatever it was before they sent him down. But look, that reset really helped him. He's a completely different player at the plate right now. He's still going to strike out a ton. There's a ton of swing and miss. He's got his lumps for sure, but he has been the absolute engine of this offense for the last probably 2+ months.
Nerdy stat of the day. You got any crazy stat or, fun analytic Twins related today? What do you got?
I don't know if it's fun for Twins fans necessarily.
Nothing fun right now.
Yeah, there's no fun. All business. Emmanuel Clase has had 4 scoreless outings in his last 5 days, just his last 5 days. So he's going 2 different back-to-backs, something that we don't see Twins doing with their bullpen very often. This is the 5th time he's done that this year. This comes from Matt Trueblood of twinsdaily.com. It just shows what an absolute powerhouse Clase has been. He's going to get Cy Young votes. I don't think he's going to win Cy Young, but he is absolutely going to get Cy Young votes. And whenever he faces the Twins, it should come as no surprise because he is absolutely lethal whenever he faces the Twins lineup late.
What kind of prospect or haul would you give up for him? Not only turning a weakness of the Twins bullpen into a strength, just adding a blue chip stud like that, but just knowing, again, the whole situation and just kind of the prospects they have to play with. Maybe it's a current player already up here. Maybe it's not a prospect, but like relievers in general, not quite as highly valued, right? As full-time guys. I guess I'm kind of out of the loop on that one.
Yeah, you'd have to give up a blue chipper or two for sure, especially just because we're still in the midst of Cleveland's competitive window. Sure. They're not going to want to give up their relief ace for nothing. It would have to be something that absolutely blows them out of the water. I believe he's locked into some money too. I think they extended him. So just knowing this front office, that ain't going to happen. Me personally, I would love to see somebody like him at the back end there. But that's the thing. We weren't even calling for them to get the best reliever in the game at the deadline. We just wanted some veteran gumption, somebody who could go out there and control a game when things are at their peak heat right now. And they didn't get that, and we're seeing things slide off the table.
Yeah. All right. Well said. Don't go anywhere. Got to talk about this playoff picture. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode also brought to us by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's just by far the easiest. It's the most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. So simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats. You watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season, 9 games left. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less. Add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the PrizePicks app. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. All right, 2 more quickies to close, and we'll get out of here. New series with Boston tomorrow. Festa on the mound for game 1. 3 with Boston, 3 with Miami, 3 with Baltimore. Now, again, Baltimore could be resting some guys by the time you get there, pending their situation. But when you look at these last 9 games, what's the things we should be thinking about, or maybe some storylines we should be jotting down in the back of our minds?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's going to be a grind no matter who they're playing here. Even somebody like Miami, who's 3-7 in their last 10, clearly rebuilding, a lot of young players. They kind of shipped out some of their good guys. At this point, I'm not comfortable taking anything for granted with the Minnesota Twins. They need to go out and perform no matter who they're playing. Boston, we're going to be seeing them at probably kind of their last hurrah if they hope to have any chance at sniffing the playoffs here. They're going to need to do something big against the Twins. And honestly, at this point, they got to be salivating looking at the Twins. They got to be looking at the Twins like a wounded gazelle on the Serengeti.
Every team does, yeah.
So that's going to be something to watch. And, the Twins need to act like this is their last huzzah, too. They need to treat every series like that. They've given themselves just absolute no room on their leash to do anything lighter than that. Baltimore, we're hoping that their series against Detroit, they can get beat up a little bit here. At least you worked a lot so that maybe we're not seeing the best version of them come the last series of the year. Yeah. Or who knows, maybe like you said, maybe they've locked things up and they're really trying to set their rotation. That's going to be a slim chance though, because if they nail down the number 1 seed, then they're not going to have to worry about lining up their starters because they won't need them until that following Friday. So it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be a dogfight no matter what. We just got to hope that our dog has some teeth left.
Detroit night off tonight. It looks like. Okay, so that lead is they're all tied up. Correct.
All tied up. Record-wise, they're all tied up, identical records, but the Twins own the tiebreaker from their head-to-head.
So, okay. So they obviously baseball doesn't do that one-game playoff anymore. Now, granted, like you said, that tiebreaker, the Twins own, that could be huge. But just in general, does any part of you miss those one-game playoff games? Because I was at game 163. Yep. Y'all remember it. Best sporting event I'll probably ever attend in my life. So maybe I'm a little biased.
I loved it. I'm going to miss it for sure. I think that they were fun. Even other teams, even when it wasn't the Twins in game 163, I was suddenly invested in these, it created some urgency that baseball lacked for so long.
For sure.
And I would love to see it for the Twins, especially because some of the tiebreakers that they have don't make a ton of sense. After it goes to the head-to-head record, it goes by like your record within your division. What does that matter? How the Twins did in their division versus Boston in theirs? I don't.
Especially if you get a White Sox in your division kind of thing, like that's just so lopsided one way or the other. What else is going on around the league? 9 games left. There's got to be some other juicy playoff battles coming down to the wire right now, outside of just Minnesota.
Yep, I believe the Dodgers and the Phillies both have the chance to clinch a playoff spot tonight. So that's going to be something to watch. I think everybody should be trying their best to watch Shohei Ohtani because he is so close to getting the first 50-50 season that we've ever seen in baseball. An absolute superstar, global sensation. Plays on the West Coast, so after the Twins game, maybe sneak on over, watch a little bit of the Dodgers whenever he's up to bat because it's going to be fun to watch these last 10 games or so for him.
Love it. Twins collapse again in extras. Final score today, 3-2. Got 9 games left. On to Boston tomorrow. Fest on the mound for game 1. First pitch for that, 6:10 p.m. Huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. We'll be back each and every game right here, breaking it all down. Got to go check out all of Lou's work on X. Give him a follow at SweetLouMN, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com as well. Go like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time. But until then, signing out.